No, I'm Not a Human is a psychological horror game I became obsessed with overnight. I've been waiting for a game like this for a long time, and I think it will really strike a chord with a certain player base. Here's the plot. After an unspecified solar catastrophe, our planet is boiling up fast, and people are seeking shelter from the intolerable heat. If that wasn't enough, murderous creatures that look almost identical to humans, called visitors, have shown up. You need to save the humans and eradicate any visitors that get inside your house via a series of unreliable tests. I first played No I'm Not a Human as part of the VHS Anthology series. I loved it to bits, but once you know which characters are human and which are visitors, the game becomes effortlessly easy. But it was good enough to generate considerable buzz, and the word on everyone's mind was potential. No I'm Not a Human has now seen a full release, and although some characters are always human or always visitor, most are randomised. This is a great way to keep new runs unpredictable. And for the purposes of this video, I will henceforth call this game Nina. But pre-release, demo or full release, Nina is no less vulnerable to spoilers. Spoilers are always bad, but in this case I'd go so far as to say spoilers completely ruin the experience, even for people with dozens of hours in the game. I'd recommend not looking up any of the characters ever, but I'm still determined to take a closer look to find why this game is so special. So I've tried to be as spoiler-free as possible and be very careful about what footage I show and where. Later in this video, I'll cut closer to spoiler territory and I'll let you know when we get there. It's just hard to talk about Nina without spoilers. Even the official trailer gives away some surprises. However, most of the details are unknown, so I can discuss those things freely as they're just theories. But first, what is the basic gameplay? For our first run, we're given a tutorial with our trusted neighbour. We can skip this tutorial if we want to get to the first proper night, and night will be the time you'll be receiving guests who knock on your door. Most of them ask for shelter in your house, and you can either accept or deny their request. They want to escape the heat, as being outside during the day suggests third-degree burns at least. Presumably your pad is well air-conditioned. If not, at least it's out of direct sunlight, and other places have since burned down or been overrun by visitors, so survivors have come to your place. You'll be walking back and forth from your bed to the door in a loop that reminds me of PT. Surely that was intentional. The guests will stay in the various rooms, but at night you can't check directly on your guests that are staying. You can look out the window for some details about what's going on in the wider world to get some information though. Come morning, the sun is so intense you can't even look outside, and you'll never get a guest during sunlight hours. But at this time you can check your guests and interview them if you want. This is the core gameplay loop. As we can see, the graphics are very minimal, leaving a lot to the imagination. The characters themselves are 4 or 5 still shots, and most of them look very odd. The uncanny valley is used masterfully here to evoke distrust and paranoia.
Terrible, frightening, isn't it?
If that wasn't enough, most of the characters are eccentric. Very few of them behave like normal people, which really doesn't help in detecting who's an enemy and who isn't. I put some of this down to sunstroke frying people's brains. Consequently, there doesn't seem to be a correlation between strange appearance and behaviour versus human or visitor. However, there is a correlation on who's human or not via those tests I mentioned. Every morning you flip on the tube to check the news. Even the characters there don't look or act like humans. Regardless, each day you'll receive a new way to test for visitors. Perfect teeth, dirty fingernails, and bloodshot eyes are the first 3 indicators of being a visitor. But as you can see, this correlation is not a guarantee. The field is ripe for false positives and true negatives? Is that a term? Whatever. Having nice teeth might just mean dental work and or good oral hygiene, and visitors might have resorted to disguising their teeth to make them appear bad.
It eliminates some of us.
So I'm gonna get killed because I floss.
I'm glad my English teeth look like a dropped bag of dominoes. Dirty fingernails are also quite normal and arbitrary, and between not sleeping, excessive crying, looking at the sun and or drinking caffeine, bloodshot eyes can also be explained away. It's impossible to have any confidence in these tests, and yet it's all you have.
Inconclusive.
There is indeed a slight correlation between being a visitor and having at least some of these signs, and other signs further on, and as the owner of the house, it's your duty to check every guest for these signs. And it's then your choice whether to spare a suspicious lodger or... If there are visitors in your house during the night, they might kill human characters unless you flush them out and kill them first. But you should be sure before you pull that trigger. It's here the game gets spicy.
Which makes you a murderer, don't it?
What even is a visitor? Really, I mean. We don't know. You're given conflicting information as to the nature of visitors. The most concrete thing we know is they crawl up from the ground, hence the dirty fingernails, but even then we're not 100% sure. Maybe they're the recently dead coming back to life. Other theories involve insects, God, aliens, mushrooms, and all sorts. Uncertainty is a recurring theme throughout the game, but you can't just ignore the visitor threat because they will kill the humans and, before too long, kill you. You must determine who in your midst is a secret killer.
I know I'm no piece of shit. I'm pretty sure you're okay. And I'm fucking positive you're on the level.
Now, anyone who hasn't played this game can see a very easy way to get out of this dilemma. Just board everything up and lock yourself away with the shotty, the beer and the toilet roll, and just wait for whatever end is coming for you, ignoring any knocks like so many Jehovah's Witnesses. But there's another threat on the prowl. Your neighbour mentioned this before, and looking out of your window on certain nights will reveal this menace as well. The intruder, or the pale man, or the super visitor. This one makes no attempts to hide either himself or his murderous intentions. Should you tell him you're alone or invite him in, he will kill you. Also, if you claim not to be alone when you are alone, he will still kill you. The player needs to have at least one human staying in the house when the intruder comes knocking, or it's game over. Again, his exact nature is not known. Why does he need you to be alone? Why doesn't he just kill you? The whole being invited in detail reeks of vampirism, but it's all speculation. And this super visitor is even more different from the infiltrator style visitor you may or may not have under your roof. He's bulletproof. You can look out your windows to see dead soldiers, and the intruder holding a severed head, apparently unharmed by their ordnance as he slaughtered them. Keeping the devil from your door is the point of everything you've been doing thus far. You must let people in and keep them safe to the best of your ability to keep him out. This is the final piece of the core gameplay loop. It's a mechanical failsafe against a fully selfish mentality. Hell, I wouldn't let people in. But one should help their fellow man in such dire times simply because it's the right thing to do. But if you don't want to, you now have the amoral incentive not to get murked by this creep. It makes me wonder, is this all a test of some kind? The pale man is very cryptic and unhelpful as he teases and torments you. Be careful you don't accidentally click on the wrong option now, and keep an eye on your guests. When testing your guests during the day, you only have a finite amount of energy to do so. You'll need a good memory and decent planning to help you determine who's who. Think carefully about what you're doing and utilize a process of elimination if someone randomly drops dead. I'll admit the whole story and the process is rather contrived. It took dozens of rewrites to get all this down, and even now I'm not convinced I'm covering all the angles, partly out of fear of spoilers and partly because I just don't know. But the whole picture makes for, in my opinion, great gameplay, and I love it. One of the other reasons I love Nina so much is because it reminds me of, and indeed was inspired by, John Carpenter's The Thing, one of my favourites. The premise is very similar, but there are a few differences. In the film, the enemy perfectly imitates existing humans and replaces them when it kills them. Sort of. Maybe. It's possible visitors operate in a similar way, but we don't know for sure. We do know that this modus operandi isn't meaningfully reflected in the game's mechanics though. Visitors are simply imposters the player character has no previous relation with. And as far as I know, humans don't become visitors, at least not while in your house. They just get butchered by them. Although there's no blood test here to make 100% sure, there is FEMA who are here to help. Allegedly. I don't know if they were intentionally named after the real-world government agency, but either way, they're the only real authority left.
Don't expect any official support.
Talking to your guests about FEMA mostly elicits distrust of this organisation, and it's easy to see why. FEMA's methods are dubious and questionable, and everything they do is shrouded in mystery. Maybe they're just killing everyone. FEMA will periodically show up and take one or two guests away from the house chosen at random. What exactly happens to those guests is never known, and you cannot refuse FEMA when they come.
Prepare to be humongous.
Given that who gets taken from your home is random, FEMA might well be taking away visitors or humans. You don't know, and neither do they. From a gameplay perspective, FEMA are neutral in that regard, but even that is contested. Some players say they're more likely to take away human characters. I personally don't see that correlation, but I might be wrong. If true, what are FEMA's ultimate goals? They feel like a more calculated risk, or at least the lesser of two evils, but they're still untrustworthy. Are they an authoritarian but necessary evil given the circumstances? Are they covering something up? The danger is very real either way. It's typically through them we get the information on the tests, and given there is, at the very least, a slight correlation in identifying enemies, FEMA seem to have our best interests in mind. But have they been compromised? Have they gone insane? Are they hurting more than helping? Are they somehow responsible? Once again, we just don't know. It's yet another aspect that plays into our paranoia and suspicion. We doubt everything in this hazy, gaslighty world that's rapidly burning to death. I have a lot to say about this and what I feel the game designers were going for, but for now I'm going to take an even closer look at the details of Nina. I'm going to go into minor spoilers from here on out. If this game appeals to you in any way, you have no excuse not to indulge yourself and support the indie scene. Just play the game and come back here as I delve a little deeper. To stay on the subject of FEMA, during the course of the run you're given FEMA slips. You can give these slips to any guest to ensure they will be taken away by the FEMA agent when he shows up. These can be used to protect guests you're mostly sure are human. This wasn't in the early release of the game and does give you a bit of control. However, that doesn't stop FEMA being a potential surprise game over should the intruder wander by when they leave with your last honest soul. One means of defense is knowing that both FEMA and the super visitor always turn up on the same nights. Not same nights as in they both show up at the same time. Same nights as in the number of the night they will always show up. Not the same as each other. Not necessarily, at least. Does that make sense? Point is, use your slips wisely.
Wisely.
Another difference from the original game was the inclusion of the radio. Simply tune in to get some bonus information. But information is so compromised in this universe, I don't think much of it can be considered anything more than misinformation. Psychics, charlatans, opportunists, maybe experts? Sources are unreliable and irresponsible, or possibly even allied with the threat upon you and thus benefiting from the confusion. There are at least 3 guests you might get during your run that rely heavily on conspiracy, hearsay, or just nonsense more than the others. Or maybe they're right. I'm getting a headache, give me a beer. I know which, if any, of these 3 in particular are human. But being human doesn't automatically make you reliable. You can't trust anyone regardless of if they're human or not. And you can't distrust them either. I'm so glad we have so much beer. And this madness doesn't stop here. No character is ever given a name. We simply refer to them by some attribute, or maybe the IRL fans have given them a name. It all adds to this impersonal, paranoid, and obscured vibe. It's also telling the invading hostile forces are called visitors. Technically, everyone who seeks shelter from you is a visitor. It's just more ambiguous language. But there is one detail upon which there is almost no uncertainty, and such details are extremely rare. Upon shooting someone, they will leave behind either a bloody corpse or a few bin bags. The former suggests the target was a visitor, the latter human. Indeed, when visitors kill, you'll notice who was killed by who's missing and the bin bags where they once were, indicating the victim was a human, at least for this run. Of course, one can't be 100% sure of anything, even this, but this single detail seems to be one of the few truisms the game gives us. I'm so confident in it, I'm not showing you what a corpse looks like, lest that be a spoiler. This was such a strange gameplay choice and gives me more questions than answers. To be fair, that's characteristic of this title. I don't know why dead humans leave bin bags. I guess we just clean them up? The implication is we can tell who's human and who isn't by their remains. Perhaps visitors simply can't replicate internal organs accurately. If so, maybe FEMA should just X-ray everyone and leave it at that. But I don't know if I like the idea of a target being confirmed a visitor or not after being shot. Surely it's even more confusing if all victims just leave corpses. Then the player will never know for sure if shooting that individual was the right choice or not. You'll just have to wait until the next night and just hope no one else dies. I don't even know how exactly this late night murdering is supposed to work. I had assumed everyone locked or even barricaded the door to the room they were in, and if someone winds up dead, whoever else is in that room must be guilty. This does not seem to be the case at all. It suggests the visitors are uncannily stealthy and can move and indeed murder without ever raising an alarm. They never kill another visitor either, and in the released version of the game they don't kill you. Interesting. Actually, they might kill you. They do in one of the endings, but this is so hard without spoilers. Who even are you? Your home has its own story, and the player character has a background involving an abusive father, an ex-wife, and who knows what else. This game does such a good job of undermining your confidence you can't even trust yourself. If you are a visitor, the player has no concrete way of knowing. We pass most of the signs, for whatever that's worth, and we have our backstory. But then again, so does every other character, human or not. I asked in my The Thing X Dead by Daylight video whether imposters are self-aware or more akin to sleeper agents activated by the subconscious or something. Can something similar be going on in Nina? There is, at least, some evidence to suggest that, at least, some of the visitors might not be self-aware at all. Maybe. There is clear evidence some of them know damn well they're not human and are hiding their homicidal ways. I'm not showing anyone on screen just in case. Many players have their own theories, but I don't agree with most of them. However, This game has done an amazing job of tapping into the contemporary moral zeitgeist of the early 21st century. Seriously though, given the circumstantial nature of the results of the tests, what does this say about discrimination, lookism, the indomitable need to survive? I have my own theories about Soviet-style hyper-normalization, a post-truth fake news world, narcissistic abuse, working-class alienation, information and media fatigue. Hell, what does Nina have to say about immigration, or paranoia to immigration? Okay, what about, and I'm just spitballing here, the population's reaction to a public health emergency? Nina is just begging to be analysed. But all these interpretations have problems. You need to factor in basic human stupidity for the true souls. And when it comes to visitors, you can never discount the possibility of elaborate lies, attempted misdirection, double bluffs, deliberate misinformation, or the player themselves being manipulated. I have a background in true crime, and I know a thing or two about the deception real-world serial killers use when talking with the authorities or soon-to-be victims. The level of deviousness cannot be overstated. Again, I can't give specific examples with Nina's characters, but my motto is, trust no one. If I can tear myself away from my fascinating navel and get back down to earth for a moment, the player has other options in the game world. You can watch TV for more clues and some information, and you might learn a phone number or two. The radio might also give you a phone number, and then during the day you can make some calls. There are many to dial, but the most common will be to the delivery company for supplies. You can only call once every 3 days, so choose your supplies wisely. Energy drinks to do more testing is always a good choice. This mechanic is superb for breaking up the core loop. The player must juggle this and various other actions throughout the day and then night, and mistakes could be costly. I'll now go into moderate spoilers. I'm still careful not to ruin anyone's game, but just play it yourself for goodness sake. I'm going to very likely discuss other characters that you can interact with. Firstly, there's Egghead. Who or what he is, I don't know, but he has some kind of power. There is also the cat. This is possibly the ugliest cat in gaming history, but you might be grateful for its company. Then there's the Mushroom Man. Also hard to discuss without giving anything away, but I don't know about this character. And yeah, I don't know about a lot of characters, but I really don't know about this one. Then there's the cult, because of course there's a bloody cult. You need to let this trio of twats into your house in a mechanic I ultimately like, but feel is flawed. If you already had guests on those seats, they automatically get kicked out. Then you might want to keep the Brothers Grimm alive and not taken by FEMA for a few days. Good luck with that. But we reach my very favourite new addition not in the original release, the Hunter, or the Vigilante. This hatred-looking headbanger will just kill anyone who shows even one vague sign of being a visitor. I'm inclined to believe this one really is a human. The others, who knows? But the Vigilante seems like a human character that has gone full paranoid lunatic and will just murder anyone he considers even a marginal threat. Of course, you can't discount the possibility of a smokescreen. Maybe the Vigilante is a visitor all along, taking refuge in audacity and optimizing his extermination under the perfect non-disguise. That would explain why the Pale Man hasn't got him yet, despite the Vigilante clearly being alone and with no fixed address to call home. Maybe he doesn't even know. But what I love about this one is he'll test you. And he's not going to be reasonable if you give him even the tiniest provocation to be suspicious. You need to check yourself beforehand and see what signs you do or don't show before he comes knocking. Even better, certain actions you might do cause a false positive when he checks. Visitor or not, this guy is more dangerous than any threat residing in your gaff. I especially love how he collects trophies of the people and or visitors he's killed like a classic serial killer. It's a nice reminder that some people are looking forward to a good apocalypse. I might do another video that's full of spoilers if I get so much as one person telling me they bought this game just because of this vid. I recommend it. I've not played a game like this before, and I've not gone over a third of the secrets this game has to offer. How can this experience be improved? I want more. More characters, more days, more mechanics. I think the player character should be able to interrogate guests more regarding visitor signs or their stories. There are also events that always take place on certain days which I think should be randomized. There shouldn't be 100% humans or visitors, or at least an unlockable option, or at least a different person bringing the cat. Maybe characters could react to other characters dying if they're in the same room, or dying if you shoot someone else in front of them. As is, they all seem crazy blasé about a casual murder, either by a hidden murderer or the demented clown who owns the house. There's so much potential for the developers to capitalize on now they know this title has been a success. Maybe you only have a finite number of shells in the shotgun and need to order more. Maybe you could fire warning shots or threaten guests with an empty gun. What about finite beer used to bribe guests? The beer mechanic is an unusual addition. I don't think it's even necessary. Maybe. Okay, what about film for your camera? Later, that's another way to identify visitors, and it seems like a reliable method. But what if it could only be used a finite number of times before you need to order more film? And how will limited ammo, beer or film react with the vigilante, or any other character, or even ending? And speaking of endings, can we have a variant of the bad ending? It seems a bit unfair that you and all the humans you saved be killed by just one enemy. How about a percent of humans to overpower the final visitor when you survive the 2 weeks? Something like this. Less than, greater than 25% of guests visitors? Or maybe this is verification that the parasite theory really was correct all along. Even now I don't want to go into spoilers and confirm or deny either way. If I even know. The developers can take the game in so many directions, but maybe just some quality of life additions. It bothers me that even if only one cultist has died, their leader still claims all 3 are dead. Just a few tidy-ups like that. But maybe best of all, the message that there are no more guests coming tonight can appear when you're looking through the peephole, so you know to go back to bed and you don't have to exit out. That would be groovy. Whatever they do, I love this little title and I wish it all the best.